please be seated? Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you all had a fantastic holiday and an adventurous, simple, fun, relaxing, whatever you wish for a break. Who am I? Is the common question asked by almost everyone. For some it's an easy answer, but for most this question isn't as easy to respond to. To me, knowing who you are isn't about the outside, but the inside. Anyone can say, my name's Charlotte, blonde hair, green eyes, size 7 feet, 5'3". But what does that all mean? Just because you may look a certain way on the outside doesn't necessarily mean that the person on the inside is the exact same. Understanding who we are behind these external features is a struggle that we all go through. It can be long, it can be complicated, and awfully confusing. There are many twists and turns, ups and downs, and sometimes the journey may seem unending. But the uncertainty is the most beautiful part. Figuring out who you are and who you want to be is built up through experiences, and without them, our path would have no direction. As Lewis Carroll once said, "Who in the world am I?" That's a great puzzle. Learning something new about yourself every day is something to cherish. Now, from what I can recall, chapel speeches are supposed to be an example of knowledge, something you know better or more about than other people. So I decided to share a story about myself. And I know what you're all thinking, but just hear me out for a minute. I've always been surrounded by people, a lot of people. I come from a pretty big and very social family. My family has always been the most important thing in my life, and having 24 aunts and uncles, 35 cousins, 2 parents, and 3 older siblings, there's no shortage of love that goes around. As I mentioned, I have 3 older siblings. My sister Laurel, who's currently in Los Angeles right now, and Talia and John Gray, who I'm lucky enough to have here today with me. Now, I may be a bit biased, but the 3 of them are some of the best people I've ever known. They're all smart, funny, talented, hardworking, good with people, beautiful inside and out, successful as well as unique in their very own way. When I look at them, I see 3 perfect figures. But to be honest, viewing the people that you look up to the most as perfect is not always easy. In fact, it can be rather difficult. Watching them go through high school, apply to universities, getting jobs, and still managing to have a life, they made it all look so laid back, like everything was just handed to them. And even though I was very proud of my siblings, I was also extremely jealous. I never thought myself to be as smart, or talented, or beautiful, and to think that I had to follow in the footsteps of these 3 amazing people made it almost seem impossible. Whenever we had social gatherings like dinner parties or holidays, my parents would talk to their friends or family members and say things like, Laurel's new job, or Talia's high grades, or how John Gray just got accepted to his top university. And then there was me in high school. Now, it wasn't my parents' fault. They were just being typical parents, talking about how proud they were of their kids and they had a lot to be proud of. But something about it still made me feel bad. I felt like I had to be just like them, like I was never going to be good enough unless I could be perfect like my siblings. Instead of viewing my siblings' success as inspiration, I viewed it as competition. Everything they accomplished, I had to do more. So I pushed myself. It started in grade 9, when all I'd think about was how I could never be like them. The same sentences would repeat in my head all day, every day. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough. And just plain, you're not good enough. You'll never be as talented or as successful, and your parents will never be as proud towards you as they are to your siblings. By the time I got to grade 10, I was so tired of having these thoughts in my head that the only way I thought that they could go away was by doing more. Take more classes, join more clubs, have longer co-curriculars, and work 6 times as hard. But at the end of the day, none of this made me any happier. In fact, it ended up making me feel worse about myself. I was spending so much time doing all this stuff that I forgot about important things like taking breaks, sleeping, and looking after myself. I was so exhausted, and my brain was so, well, brain dead, that I almost became a living robot. All I would do was walk and work, and if I wasn't doing that, I was stressing about how I wasn't working. Not even the art room could put a smile on my face, and that's very rare for a person like me. Eventually it became too much, and I started to fall behind in my classes. The lack of sleep made my emotions very unbalanced, so I was rude and acted out around people I cared about, like friends and family. A lot of people didn't understand what was going on, and for the few that actually asked, I just covered it up with a smile and said, "I'm just tired, I guess," which some of you might have done before. It was difficult to talk about because I wasn't even certain what was wrong myself. As grade 11 rolled along, I was still not getting any better, and it got to the point where I'd forgotten why I was even trying. I was so tired of running off of 3 hours of sleep every day and being angry at myself and the rest of the world that I just didn't see the point. I didn't really know what I wanted, I didn't know where I wanted to go, and I certainly didn't know who I wanted to be. My parents, of course, noticed the lack of energy in me and finally asked me, "What do you want to do? What can we do to make this better?" At that point, I thought everything else, like school, my friends, and Oakville, was what was making me so unhappy. So I told them I wanted to move schools. I sent in an application to a school in Switzerland called Neuchâtel Junior College, thinking that that would make everything better. And only after a week, I got this big box informing me that I'd been accepted. At first, I thought the answer would be easy, but as I thought about it more, I realized how much I'd be giving up. Things like field hockey, tennis, and skiing, or the choir and the school play, and even waking up early to serve little kids breakfast at Oakwood Elementary School. All these little things that make me, well, me. And after months of deciding, Appleby, Neuchâtel, Appleby, Neuchâtel, I got the final letter from Appleby telling me that I had to give them my answer by the following morning. That night, I sat in my kitchen pondering of what I should do when my mom came in. After telling her I didn't know which school to choose, she told me this very thing. "Both schools are great, but something you need to know is that running away from your problems isn't going to magically solve everything. Sometimes you have to be the one to change them." Now, it's pretty obvious what school I chose since I'm standing in front of all of you today, but what's most important is what my mom said to me that night. Running away from your problems isn't going to magically solve everything. Sometimes you have to be the one to change them. And she was right. Appleby, my friends, my family, and certainly my siblings were not my problem. I was. Now, it didn't just suddenly happen, of course, but once I decided to stay at Appleby, I started to realize what was important to me and what wasn't. Things like certain classes, which people made me happy and not taking anything for granted. I started to set goals for myself and found ways to relieve stress, like doing activities like skateboarding or hanging out with the weirdest and craziest people like my quad mates. And slowly but surely, I found my balance again. I soon learned that I had so much to be grateful for, and this was something that I never noticed when, as my roommate and I like to call it, the old Charlotte stage of my life was happening. And I now realize that my siblings are not a competition, they are an inspiration. If it wasn't for Laurel singing to her radio every night and me thinking that she had the most beautiful voice, I would have never imagined joining a choir or the school play. My favorite store in the entire world is Talia's Closet, and if it wasn't for her, I would have never gone into her room every day and tried on all of her clothes when she wasn't home and found an interest in fashion. And of course, Johnny G, if it wasn't for him doodling and drawing and being the most determined person I've ever met, I would have never imagined spending 42 hours on a single piece of artwork. Lo and behold, all three of them have shaped me into the person I am today. Now, I know I've gone on the longest rant about myself, and a bunch of you probably don't really understand where I'm going. But the truth is, it took me 3 long and very hard years to realize that I didn't like something about myself. Now, I don't wish any of that upon any of you, but what you need to know is that not everything in life is going to be easy. You have to learn to grasp it and take control of it, or else you just might lose yourself. But I promise that once you're through that dark and challenging tunnel, there will be a glimpse of light. Take us senior 2s for a minute. Sorry, senior 1s and the grade 10s I invited. But right now, we're applying to universities, writing test after essay, and tapping our fingers, waiting for a response from our #1 school, seeing other kids get in and anxiously stressing about whether or not we're going to get in ourselves. And it's a lot, not going to lie. But once it's over, it's over. You'll finally get to relax a little bit more and then move on to something that you probably really love doing. And there'll probably be a lot more work and a bunch more stress. But all that's important is that you're happy with where and who you are. In Sarah Dessen's words, we make such messes in our lives, both accidentally and on purpose. But wiping away the surface clean doesn't really make anything any neater. It just masks what is below. It's only when you really dig down deep, go underground, that you can see who you really are. Now, I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 10 years. In fact, I don't really know where I'm going to be next year. But I do know that wherever I am, I want to be happy. And I hope that you'll all be happy too. Would you please rise and sing Be Thou My Vision, hymn number 505.